We're going to invitation of prayer.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, excellent. Thank you for joining us. We'd like to first thank our musicians, the dulcet tones of Luis Salvador and the always exciting Jack Widener. So we're very glad you're here.
Thank you.
Let's see, I do not believe we have any guests with us today. So, as most of you know, we're requiring Mass in the sanctuary, but not in the gathering room because restaurant rules apply there. We have Mass if anyone needs them, and there's cookies in the back. So, I have the privilege of introducing our Sunday guest speaker. We were pleased to have the vivacious and talented Elizabeth Bessel with us as our speaker. As most of you know, she is a licensed Unity teacher, also a math instructor at Columbus State. That's pretty much left and right brain, isn't it? That's great. She has a long background in Unity and has pursued many forms of spiritual wisdom, such as the Enneagram, spiritual coaching, and heart intelligence, which she'll be sharing some ideas with us today. Her title today is Matters of the Heart. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And as always, we'll start with prayer. We're very inclusive of our prayers at Unity, holding the highest in mind and heart for ourselves, each other, our communities, and the world. If you're listening online, remember you can send in a prayer request at any time via our website, unitydelawareohio.org. Just use the prayer request tab at the top of the page. Now Louise and Jack will lead us into prayer with Surely the Presence.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
So as we pause in the sacred moment, I invite you just to settle into your bodies. Feel the support of the chair upholding you, your feet on the ground. And follow your breath into your body. Notice where you feel that breath in your body, maybe in your chest, maybe your abdomen. Just take a few moments to just fully inhabit your body. And as you do so, you'll notice that your heart starts to open and your mind starts to quiet. It is from this very sacred place that we affirm the highest truth that we know, that God's mighty presence flows through each one of us in every moment. We claim this truth for each one who is present today with us, in person or online. We claim this truth for all beings everywhere. God's mighty presence flows through each one of us, bringing us comfort, restoring us to health and vitality, guiding us to our highest good, providing us with all that we need in every circumstance. We hold this highest truth for ourselves, for our loved ones, and for all beings everywhere. We affirm that God's presence is available to each and every one of us moment by moment, working in us and through us as we share our gifts, our love, and our hope with the world. And for this we give thanks. Together we take one more deep, luxurious breath, and we know that we are filled with God's grace. We remember that we have access to this divine presence, this divine grace in every moment, for we are never alone. And so it is. Amen.
Well, thank you. Good morning from us. I've chosen, since we are approaching Valentine's Day week, sometime here soon, chosen a love song that was written back in the, 1934, I think, by author Schwartz and E.Y. Harper. Okay, close enough for jazz, right? Pretty thing entitled, Then I'll Be Tired of You. I'll be tired of you when stars are tired of gleaming, when I am tired of dreaming, then I'll be tired of you. This I know is true when winds are tired of blowing, when grass is tired of growing, then I'll be tired of you. Beyond the years, till day is night, till wrong is right, till birds refuse to sing. Beyond the years, the echo of my only love will still be whispering, whispering. Well, if my throbbing heart should ever start repeating that it is tired of beating, then I'll be tired of you. Chet White. Whispering, and if my throbbing heart should ever start repeating that it is tired of beating, then I'll be tired of you. Stop, then I'll be tired of you.
planning and we didn't even do it, so it's the best kind of planning. Goes right into my talk, matters of the heart, so thank you. All right, well this morning, good morning first of all, so glad you could make it. It's a little bit of a challenge, but I found as I got out of my neighborhood, the challenge was over, so. They're supposed to come and plow, they were supposed to come and plow 2 days ago, supposed to come and plow yesterday. We still haven't seen them, so one of those things, but I understand it's a challenge, getting all this snow all at once. Well, with Valentine's Day right around the corner, it does seem appropriate to focus on matters of the heart this morning, but first I want to begin with a little heart humor. Now don't get excited, these are not really good. They're not the best ones I've ever found. Here goes. So, my mother always said that the way to a man's heart was through his stomach. You know, she was a lovely and generous lady, but she was a terrible surgeon. And the second one I found said, my horoscope said, when I read it yesterday, that in about 12 years I would suffer a terrible heartbreak. I was so depressed, I went out and bought a puppy. Yeah, about 12 years. I'll have to say goodbye. Yeah, well, the last time I spoke, we talked about the journey toward presence. This was way back in August, and I just wanted to refresh a little bit about that because we're going to focus in on one of the centers that we talked about the last time. So just in a way of a quick review, we learned that there were 3 centers of intelligence. We view these centers of intelligence in different ways. Neurobiologists actually describe that there are 3 primary focal areas of the nervous system that extend throughout our body. We have body intelligence, which is located in our abdomen, and we have heart intelligence, which of course is located around our heart, and we have what we always think of as intelligence, our head intelligence, our cognitive brain. But in order to experience presence, we learned the last time that we need to be awake in all 3 centers and aligned in the 3 centers. Now in our culture, we tend to worship the top 3 inches of our anatomy, and we think that that's the only brain we have. So it takes a little work and awareness to realize, hey, I'm getting information about what's going on around me from different sources, not just my brain. And in fact, today we're going to focus on the heart center. We're going to focus on that center of intelligence, what type of intelligence it is, what it tells us, and what we need from it in order to live. So what we know about heart intelligence is that the heart has a frequency that's actually 50 times greater than the brain's frequency. Research has shown that the heart responds to the outside world before the brain has time to register and respond. We know that the heart center is where our emotional intelligence lives. We connect with our heart. We connect with ourselves. We connect with each others using our heart's intelligence. And however, in order to connect with ourselves and with each other, we have to open our hearts. You know, that may sound like a simple thing at first, but you know, we've been raised in a culture where we have been taught to protect our heart. Maybe you've heard this saying, you know, don't wear your heart on your sleeve. So what is that telling us? Don't show and expose your emotions. We don't want to deal with that. We don't want to, you know, honor that. And so even from very young children, we've probably been taught, you know, it's a good idea to stuff some of those emotions. They're pretty messy, and you know, it's just a little difficult to deal with. So opening our hearts can be a scary thing because it's also a vulnerable thing. Have you ever had that experience where you've opened your heart to someone and they couldn't receive it, they couldn't be there? You know, we have a very visceral and deep reaction when that happens. We're going to talk about that in a little bit and how we can kind of weather that opening the heart. So when we experience reality, it comes to my mind that we usually have 2 choices. We want to make it real simple. Something happens and we can either react using the ego patterns that were created at a very, very young age, very necessary part of ourself that helps us to get on through the world. The problem with the ego is that we often think that's who we are. We don't realize it's just a part of ourselves, and that conditioning is so deep that it's very, very automatic. Instead of reacting to a situation, we can also choose to be with that situation without judgment, just as it is. And that's where the heart comes in. That's where that heart intelligence helps us to back off. So when we experience life and everything it brings to us, we think of all the good things, the achievements, the victories. We think of some of the bad things, the failures. We think of some of the precious things, the connection and belonging. Sometimes we experience trauma. In fact, we all experience trauma along the way. It's part of the human experience. Accidents, loss, illness, heartaches, possible heartbreaks. Our heart responds, and we feel the resulting joy and elation. We feel fear and pain. We feel suffering and angry. But because there is a general discomfort with displaying feelings, our natural reaction is to stuff them, to protect our heart, to harden our heart, to shut it down. In other words, we strive to keep life at bay rather than allowing it in and experiencing it fully. So we need to recognize right from the start that it takes an enormous amount of courage to open our heart center. Sometimes it requires us to dig deep to find that courage and exercise it, but we all have that courage. We were born with it. And once we've found it, the question becomes, all right, well, what do I need to do to open this heart of mine that I've so long protected? So I want to share with you 4 powerful practices that I've discovered and I've been using along the way. The first one is to attend to our emotions and to pay attention to them. Oftentimes when we're encountered with a powerful emotion, be it pleasant or unpleasant, we either deny it, we distract ourselves, or we dismiss it as being unimportant. I've got to get on to the important stuff. So we want to kind of deprogram ourselves from that automatic reaction to many of our emotions. And a powerful practice in listening to emotions, rather than just to dismiss them and ignore them, is to develop what Pema Chodron calls the Tonglen attitude. In her book, Opening the Heart, she explains what this practice is, and it's really quite simple. So when you're in the presence of any difficult emotion, just remember that others are feeling it too. It's just as simple as that. The power of remembering that others are feeling it too amplifies our sense of connection and gives us the courage to listen to the emotion rather than run from it. We're not unique, we know that. I'm going to say we are unique, but we are not alone. We know that. We are at one with ourselves, with each other, with all human beings in the world, but so often we live like the rugged individual that this country so deeply values, the way it was founded. So when we remember that we are connected in this emotion, we're not singled out for any type of special suffering or any type of special joy. We are experiencing it along with millions of others. That brings that strength that comes from connection, from realizing that you're part of a community with this. Then you need to listen to the emotion. So first of all, don't dismiss it. Then we need to listen to it. And how do we do that? Well, Pema says that we can affirm, may this path of awakening be an awakening for the heart of all of us. Again, affirming that connection and affirming that an emotion is often a path of awakening. The emotion is really how our soul speaks to us. You know, I've got that constant head chatter, but our heart is where we connect with ourselves and where we connect with the essence of other human beings. And this affirmation, may this be a path of awakening for the heart of all of us, allows us to stay with the emotion, giving it our attention, becoming aware of it. And if you even want to go deeper into that emotion, stay with it a little longer, make this your intention. This takes a little bit of courage. Since I'm feeling this way, may I feel this so others can be free of it, if it's an unpleasant emotion. Or to remember, since I'm feeling this way, may others feel this and share this pleasure, if it's a pleasant emotion. So it's a way of honoring, acknowledging our emotions, and reminding ourselves that we're not in this emotional suit by ourselves. We're all sitting here. 99% of the time, we're just unaware of it. So we might as well be aware that we're sitting there. The second practice that I found that's very, very powerful is to honor your emotions with gratitude. And we know the power of gratitude. Practice of gratitude is, according to positive psychology research done at the Harvard Medical School, is very, very powerful. It has a lot of wonderful benefits. Their research has shown that gratitude is strongly and consistently associated with greater happiness. Gratitude helps people feel more positive emotions, relish good experience, improve their health, and deal with adversity, and build strong relationships. Most of us are familiar with the practice of keeping a gratitude journal. It's just a real simple practice. Keep a notebook beside your bed on the nightstand perhaps, and at night before you go to sleep, write down at least 3 things you're grateful for. And then put it aside. Super simple. I mean, sometimes I do go on a little bit eloquent if I've really been touched with some of the things that have gone on, but that's not a requirement. All you have to do is note them. And what that does, if you're like me, not everybody is as strongly like this as I am, but a good number of you are. If I know I've got to do something at night, like write down 3 things I'm grateful for, what do you suppose I'm looking for during the day? And I'm getting ready to do that assignment at night. So it just directs my attention. I mean, the beauty of it is we get to direct our focus of attention. We just don't usually do that. We usually let it wander wherever it might want to go. But we can direct our attention and we can start seeing the beauty that's around us. We need to look at those 3 things that we're grateful for. So this is a little tweak to keeping a gratitude journal, is that in addition to listing the things we're grateful for, we also list at least 3 emotions that have visited us during the day for which we're grateful. And what I've done to really stretch myself on this is I've actually looked at emotions that I normally wouldn't be grateful for. And I list them as being grateful for them, and then of course my brain asks the next question, why would I be grateful for that? So it gets me to sit with the emotion and to experience it a little more fully, and to explore the depths of it a little greater. Brene Brown, in her latest publication, Atlas of the Heart, if you haven't had a chance to read that, it's a really good read. I understand it's coming out on Valentine's Day on Audible. So if you like me, I read some books, I listen to some books. It seems like I don't have enough time to do all that reading. Sometimes it's really nice to read the book as you're listening to it, let someone else read it to you. So anyway, that comes out the 14th. The hardcover copy has been available for a while, and I've been reading through that over the last month. And she explains a little experiment that she did several years ago in her teaching. For about 5 years, she conducted a simple survey with her students. She would just ask them when they were in their class, at the beginning of their class, she would ask them to list all of the emotions that they could identify as they experienced them. So not after reflecting on them, but as you're experiencing them, what emotions can you identify? She crunched her numbers, which is what she does. She's a researcher, and she came out with the average number of emotions that those students could name. Want to take a guess at what that average was? Anybody? 3. 3 emotions. Happy, mad, and sad. Remember if they rhyme. Happy, mad, and sad. Those are the 3 emotions that they could name on average. Some name more, some name less, but when you add them all together and divide them, you get 3. Can you imagine the depth of human experience can only be described in 3 ways? I'm either happy, I'm either mad, or I'm sad. That right there shows us that our hearts are so shut down, so protected. So we just keep our life at bay. We can only experience it in one of these 3 ways. So by naming the emotions, it seems like a simple thing. But by naming the emotions, what that allows us to do is become aware of them. We experience a lot more states than just happy, mad, or sad. It's just that we're tuned to shut them out and to ignore them. So if we sit down at the end of the day and name those emotions, we start to build a vocabulary. We start to increase our awareness, we start to build a vocabulary, we start to experience or realize that there's a richness to life that I can tune into, that sometimes I'm on autopilot and I'm just programmed to shut out. The third practice is, tip is to practice vulnerability. Now, in her book, in the Atlas of the Heart, Brene explains a lot of these emotions. She gives definitions to them, which are very powerful. So she gives us names to more than happy, mad, and sad, and there's hundreds of them in there. And she gives us the definitions so we can kind of work with them and know, what we're looking for and what's happening to us. So she explains that vulnerability is the emotion that we experience during times of risk and uncertainty, and emotional exposure. When we're willing to show and share our emotions with one another, we are providing an opportunity for empathy to arise. Now, what is empathy? Well, empathy is a very, very powerful tool of compassion. It's actually an emotional skill that allows us to understand what another is experiencing and then to reflect that back to the other with understanding. When we experience empathy, we have a sense of being seen, of being felt, and of being heard. And that's incredibly powerful. When empathy is present, there's compassion. The practice of recognizing and accepting our shared humanity so that we treat others with loving kindness, and we treat ourselves with loving kindness, and we can take action in the face of suffering. That's what empathy is. So the practice of compassion allows us to connect deeply with others and reminds us, number one, that we're all one. We're not in this alone. I've had the opportunity to practice vulnerability, compassion, and empathy by participating in circles of trust. Now, a circle of trust is just a community gathering that is bounded by guidelines so that a safe space is created where individuals can be vulnerable and can practice giving and receiving empathy. And although I do not know these people in my circle of trust, I participate in virtual circles of trust now that the pandemic is on. I don't know these people. They're from all over the United States and some from foreign countries. And a lot of them I've never met before. If I have met them, I've met them briefly in another circle of trust where we're at. Although I don't know these people, I feel a very strong connection to them. Because in this safe space, we get to know each other at depth, even though we don't see each other on a regular basis. And there's something very, very powerful about that compassion and that empathy when it arises, whether you're receiving it or whether you're giving it. If you're interested in participating in circles of trust, you might want to check out the Kirk Retreat and Study Center. It's a retreat center that's in New York. And they have a big online presence now, as many things do during the pandemic. And if you just Google Kirkridge, K-I-R-K, Ridge, R-I-D-G-E, it's all one word, .org, it will come up. And they have monthly offerings for this if you're interested in exploring that. Suppose circles of trust aren't available to you, or you don't feel comfortable participating in this yet. I know I have to share, it took me a while to feel comfortable. You know, especially if you've been vulnerable and it hasn't been met with support, you get gun shy. It's totally understandable. It happens to all of us. So if you don't feel like coming out in that type of circle, another way that you can practice empathy and self-compassion is through journaling. Journaling is like having a very, very deep conversation with yourself. And it's a chance to practice self-compassion and self-empathy. When we're faced with our emotions and sometimes the sheer depth of pain that they can cause, we learn to offer ourselves compassion and care that we've been searching for out there. We learn to offer it to ourselves from our resources within when we journal. Tending to the wounds we've been avoiding, trying to ignore, we develop empathy for ourselves, and this often can be helped with journaling by just writing down what's going on. Actually, journaling can be the ultimate release. Often in journaling, we drop our masks, we show up as who we really are, without the influence of others expecting us to be a certain way. We can slowly unpack some deep-seated beliefs that we may have that have kind of gone to the unconscious levels of our being. That we can explore our hang-ups and our limitations in our journal, and we can release the pain that we've been harboring. Sometimes I've noticed this in my journaling, my heart will begin to soften, my armor will drop, and my story actually starts to change about who I am and what life is for me. The fourth tip that I have is probably the most difficult tip that I've had to work with, because it involves a very, very unpleasant emotion that we all experience. And that fourth tip is to honor shame. We are social beings at heart. We can't really thrive unless we're in connection, unless we're belonging somewhere. We see those pictures. I'm drawn to remember a lot of babies that were adopted out of Russia. And when they came to live in the United States, we knew of some people because our children are adopted, so we hung out in those circles. We know of individuals who adopted children from Russia, and they come across, I can't remember the name of the disorder, but the problem was the system was overwhelmed and these infants went into orphanages at a very, very early age, and they did not develop the ability to bond with a human. And those individuals who did not develop the ability to connect have a difficult road. They have a lot of psychological issues that have to be dealt with. And it's a very traumatic experience for everyone involved in that, actually. So it just belies the fact that we have to connect if we're going to thrive as human beings. That's just a part of the package that we have here. And because we're not all perfect, each one of us will experience shame at one point or another in our lives. And you probably can all reflect back on experiences of shame that you've had. Because it is an inevitable experience, because shame is universal to humanity, it's one of the most primitive emotions that we experience. Shame is the fear of disconnection because we are flawed. So there's a reason, that's the shame. We're disconnected and the reason is we're flawed. There's something wrong with us, we're unworthy of love, we're unworthy of belonging, we're unworthy of connection. That's what makes it such a primitive and difficult emotion. The antidote to shame is self-compassion and empathy. If we can embrace ourselves with loving kindness during those moments when we experience shame, and this is the hard part for me, but I found it's very beneficial, and reach out to a trusted other to share that experience of shame. Someone who can respond with empathy, with understanding, with reflection, reflecting back to us what we're experiencing. The shame magically dissipates. You know, it's like we've fixed that error in our thinking and in our feeling, and the shame dissipates. Because shame is a universal experience, when we approach life with an open heart, especially, we need to create a way to move through it without sacrificing our values or losing our authenticity. So there are just a couple of tips in moving through shame real quickly. The first thing is to recognize shame and understand its triggers. So what expectations have I set up for myself that I'm feeling like I'm not worthy right now? Are these expectations attainable? Are they reasonable? What are the powerful sensations that I feel in my body? Shame gives us a lot of body hints if we're tuned into our body and getting our sensations. Where do I feel it? I know where I feel shame sometimes. I have a hard time catching my breath. I feel a lot of pressure behind my eyes. I feel like I just want the earth to swallow me up. I just want to go and hide. So you know, I mean, the thing is we're so tuned to turning that out and ignoring it and dismissing it. But when we open up to it, we begin to say, okay, what's triggering this? What's causing this shame? And then we need to practice critical awareness. When we identify the triggers for the shame, the thing that I've had to ask myself is, okay, where are these expectations coming from? Are they coming from who I believe deep within myself I need to be? Or are they coming from what other people think I need to be? Now, I don't know about you, but we've all played a lot of roles in our lives. You know, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a mother, I'm an instructor, I'm a wife. We can all name all of the roles we play. And being involved in those roles elicits certain identities to come up with me. I have to be this for my children. I have to be this for my students. I have to be this for my husband. I have to be this for my friend. And so that's the critical piece for me, is when the shame arises, where's it even coming from? Is it coming from something that is truly mine that I've not lived up to? Or is it just coming from something I think? This is the thing. I think others think that I should be. Can you imagine the hall of mirrors we set up? You know, for ourselves when we go down this line of thinking. So just being aware that that's out there. We don't need to find the source, really. We just need to know it's out there and what's going on when this happens. And then we need to reach out when we're in moments of shame. We need to reach out and we need to own and share our story. Again, this takes an enormous amount of courage, but if you're not reaching out, you're not going to be experiencing empathy, which, remember, dissipates the shame. You're not going to be reminded through connection that, hey, this is something everybody goes through. This is something that's not true about who I really am, and allowing the shame to dissipate. The thing is, when we hide our shame, which is what we tend to do, We all want to kind of closet it, you know. When we hide our shame, it only increases the experience of shame. It's like it just magnifies it and amplifies it. So reaching out allows us to get the empathy that we need in order to heal it. Another very, very powerful thing that reaching out does, in my experience, is that when you reach out to another person, it's a strong reminder, hey, we all experience this. You experience shame, and I do too. So it's that bond of connection that we're building and reminding ourselves, it's just part of the human experience. I'm not special because I'm shamed in this way. It's just a part of the human experience. And the shame is not real. That's the big thing. The shame is not real. So, what does living with an open heart look like? Well, Maria Andrzejczyk's story gives us an example of open heart living. Maria is a 25-year-old Olympic javelin thrower from Poland. She had a bit of struggles in the beginning. She missed the medal in the 2016 Summer Olympics by 2 centimeters. So she just missed that, I think the bronze medal probably. Soon after that, she suffered a shoulder experience, which took her out of the 2017 competitive season. And during 2018, it was discovered that she also had bone cancer. So she had a lot to deal with. She was able to get the help she needed and to overcome her challenges enough so that she could compete, return to competition, and actually qualified for the 2020 Summer Olympics. So in the 2020 Summer Olympics, she won the silver medal for the women's javelin throw. After the games, shortly after the games, even though it was I would imagine, a great achievement for her, given all of the setbacks that she faced, soon after the games, she auctioned her silver medal to raise more than $100,000 to help an 8-month-old boy, Milasek Malaysia, who was born with a very serious heart defect and needed to come to the United States for critical life-saving heart surgery. Maria wrote in her Facebook page that Milasek had already received an incredible head start from Kubis. Kubis was another boy in Poland who had experienced some genetic difficulties when he was born, and he didn't make it. But his amazing parents had an open heart and gave all of the money that they had raised for their own son, who didn't make it, to Milasek's parents so that he could have a chance. And she says, in this way, I wanted to help. She said, it was for him that I'm auctioning my Olympic silver medal. So it turns out that Zabka, a Polish supermarket chain, won the bid of $125,000 to purchase the medal. So they were able to give $125,000 more to Milasek. Milasek was able to come to Stanford University Medical Center and receive the surgery he needed, and as far as we know to date is alive and well, doing, thriving. However, after winning the auction, Zabka, the store that bought the medal, decided to return the medal to Maria. And so it was a donation to Milasek that Maria had caused. So she ended up losing nothing, and that's the incredible gift of living with an open heart. You live with the ability to give a wonderful sacrifice, and often it comes right back to you in return. So when we live with an open heart that is aligned with our body and our mind, center of intelligence, what happens, I think, is that everything looks clearer. Reality contains a massive amount of information that we totally overlook on a regular basis. I often tease I often say kind of jokingly, sometimes I feel like I was born with one antenna that can pick up one frequency, and there are a zillion frequencies out there, and I'm missing all the rest of them. And I think that's the way we all are. There's so much going on, and so much of it we ignore. And we miss, not because we want to, but just because we can't take it all in. But however, when you're living in alignment, and you're intentionally opening your heart, what happens is you become aware of a lot more of that information. It's like you put up a few more antennas and can collect a few more channels on that. When we become aware of our body, we open our heart, we quiet our mind, we experience an expansive clarity, and we become more aware of the reality that's going on around us. I like to think that's what happened to Maria. How did she even know about Milasek? He wasn't a relative. Maybe it had received public attention over in Poland, I don't know. But you become aware of these opportunities. You see the way to action, how you can step in and how you can make a difference, not only for yourself, but for others. And you're prompted to take right action. So I want to close by leaving the key to opening our heart, which is so beautifully expressed by Rumi. Rumi's one of my favorite poets, and I know a lot of you are aware of Rumi. He's a 13th century poet who was obsessed with the everlasting beloved, that divine essence of each one of us. And it represents our oneness with God. And Rumi felt that this oneness was best expressed through love of self and love of other. And so a lot of his poetry is very, very powerful expressions of that. Well, Rumi gives us a metaphor to help us on this journey of opening our hearts. And here is his statement. Heart is sea, and language is shore. Whatever sea includes must hit the shore. In the Atlas of the Heart, which I've quoted earlier, Brene Brown writes, language is our portal to the meaning-making, connection, healing, learning, and self-awareness that our heart gives. Without language, we struggle to get the help we need. We don't always manage our emotions and experiences in a way that allows us to move through them productively, and our self-awareness is diminished when we can't move through them productively. Language shows us that naming an experience, naming that emotion, does not give the experience more power over us. It's quite the opposite. Instead, it gives us the power of understanding and meaning of that information. So every day, our feelings and experiences show up in our bodies. They're shaped by where we come from, how we were raised. They drive how we show up for ourselves. They drive how we show up for others in our lives. And understanding these emotions and experiences is our life's work. It's a never-ending process. May we find the solid ground within us, that shore that offers a safe harbor when we are feeling untethered and adrift. The real gift of developing a relationship with our heart center is being able to connect with ourselves and with each other in ways that nourish and support us in all that life brings our way. Let's close in a word of prayer. As we find our breath and settle into our bodies, allow your heart to expand and your mind to quiet. We become aware of an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this beautiful opportunity to experience life with an open heart, grateful to be in the present moment with whatever's arising, just as it is, without judgment. We are grateful for the divine presence that lives in each one of us, guiding us, protecting us, enfolding us, comforting us, blessing each one of us with wonderful gifts to share with the world. May we be ever mindful of this presence as we live each moment with the exquisite but ephemeral beauty it brings. May we find the grace within ourselves to fully inhabit each and every moment that life brings, just as it is. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And now we have the great privilege of hearing again from Louise and Jack.
Yeah, I'll double that. Thank you, Elizabeth. It was good to hear you again. This next tune that I chose was written by Irving Berlin for a Broadway musical back in, I thought I wrote it down there someplace, but anyway, 1926. For the musical called Betsy. Here it is. Yeah, written in 1926 for the musical Betsy by Rodgers and Hart. But the song was written by Irving Berlin, 1926, entitled Blue Skies. You've heard it many times before. Never saw the sun shining so bright. Never saw things going so right. Noticing the days hurrying by. When you're in love, my, how they fly, those blue skies, all of them gone, nothing but blue skies from now on. Oh, blue skies, smiling at me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Never saw the sun shining Noticing the days hurrying by. When you're in love, my, how they fly. Those blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies from now on. Here's Jack White. Saw the sun shining so bright, never saw things going so right. Noticing the days hurrying by. When you're in love, my, how they fly. Those blue days, all of them gone. Nothing but blue skies from now on. Nothing but blue skies. Nothing but blue skies. We ain't the blue skies. Oh, we got that today. Oh, nothing but blue skies from